I have all the information I need now to generate my month. I don't want to have 1,000 conditions in here and individually set each one of these. I want to send a single message that all of my subcomponents are going to receive, and they're going to determine do I need to be hidden or visible? And if I am visible, what number am I? And I'm going to update my own label there to be the proper number. So let's send a message here. Send to current scene. And I'm sending it to the scene so that way all of my components can hear this. I'm going to send a message to the scene and I'm going to call it date picker set day. All of the messages that my date picker component are sending between the components and vice versa, I'm going to preface with this uppercase date picker. And the reason for that is because I'm sending this to the scene, those messages can be received in the scene outside of the component. So this way it cuts down on the chances that this conflicts with other messages you might already have in your scene. So date picker set day, and I'm going to send a value together. I'm going to send 2 bits of information. I'm going to send the start day and I'm going to send the number of days per month. And then my components are just going to use that to figure out how to number themselves or show and hide themselves. And once again, in the same way that I use an array here for the number of days in the month, I'm going to use an array in this message. So let's open this up here, and an array starts with square bracket. Now this is text. It's not a true array. So we are using a text representation of an array. So this needs to be in quotes. And I'm going to use start day plus, and then text again, comma, close text. And then I want days in month. And I can say okay to that. Okay, so now I'm sending this message, send date picker set day. This calendar day component is going to receive this message. And here's how it's going to work. Let's go back to our design here for our reference, because this will help if we can visualize it a bit more. The first bit of information is start day, and that is a number from 0 to 6. These components are going to be numbered 0 to 36. This is going to be the number representing the order in which they are arranged, not necessarily the number they are going to display. So the first one is 0, second one is 1, third one is 2, etc. If the component's own ordering number is less than the start day, so if my month starts on the Wednesday and the start day is going to be 3, then 0, 1, and 2 I want to be hidden. Anything above the start day, equal to or above the start day, so if it starts on the 3rd day, that all the way up to the number of days in the month, I want that to be visible. Anything above the number of days in the month, I want to also be hidden. We have one problem here though. This calendar day component doesn't know its own ordering number. If we take a look at the component, it has a name that is the correct number for the one that it is, but the component actually can't access. It doesn't have this as a property, so it can't actually look at its own name and know that this is order 0, this is order 2, this is order 19, etc. We need a way of giving them their order number, or I'm going to call it the index. Inside the calendar day, I'm going to make a variable, and I'm going to call it index. And because I want each of these ones to have a different number for index, I'm going to make it overridable. And now this means that from within my component, I can set each of these to a different number. And I'm just going to set it to the same number as you see in its name. So this one is already 0, that's fine. This one I'm going to make 1. This one I'm going to make 2. And then I'll just quickly go through the rest of these. And then the last 2. 35, and 36. Now, it's important that we get these right, and I want to make sure that I didn't miss any or misnumber any of these along the way. So temporarily, I'm just going to do something inside my calendar day component. I'm going to add a trigger. This is going to be start. And I'm just going to use a text response on the, we need to make it editable. See this text layer? It's currently called 1. Let's rename it and call it label and make it editable. There we go. And I am going to now just use formula. I'm just going to put whatever its index happens to be. So index. So if I got this right, then I should see these numbered 0 all the way up to 36. Let's just preview this. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I did this right. If your numbering is not sequential like this, or if you've missed a number, go back and fix it, and it should look like this, 0 all the way up to 36 in order. Make sure you have that set up correctly before we move on. If you get this wrong, then it's going to mess up everything else after that. Okay, so now I've got that. We can go back into our calendar day and I can remove this. We don't need that in there anymore. That was just to let us know that we've done this right. Okay, so we sent this message, date picker set day. With this comes an array that's got the start day and the days in the month. I want to use this within my component now. So let's go back here and I'm going to receive from current scene, date picker set day, and I'm going to assign this to a variable. Now I need to make one, so let's go over here and make a variable, and I'm going to call this set data. This is text. Remember, this has to be text because we're sending through a line of text. And assign it here, set data. And now I need to make a number of decisions. And I need to make a decision based on the value of start day first of all. If my own index, if this calendar day component copy's own index is less than start day, then it's going to become hidden. If I try to do this condition, and I'm going to say if index is less than, and let's use a formula here, and I'm going to say parse JSON, and this will be set data, comma 0. So the first index is 0. If I were to do this, this is not going to work. It's a weird quirk inside ProtoPie that no matter what I do, this is going to be treated as text and not a number. So if I try to compare it like this, then my whole hide and show or anything else I want to do here is just not going to work. If you've taken my TV masterclass, you've seen me deal with this already. The solution for this, if I want to make sure that I can compare this as a number, I need to assign it to a number type variable first, and then I can use it in my condition. So let's make a couple of variables over here. I'm going to make one called start day, and it's a number. I'm going to make another one called num days in month, and it's also a number. And under this receive, let's remove this condition, and I'm going to assign to both of these. Assign, select variable, and I'm going to say start day, and that's going to be equal to my first index in the set data array. So parse JSON set data 0, first index. Remember, computers start counting from 0, so the first index is 0. And I'm going to duplicate this. Now I want not start day, but number of days in the month. And this is going to be the second index, or index 1. So this is assigning start day. This is assigning num days a month. Now I can use these in a comparison, but I have one more problem. If I add a condition here, and I say if index is less than start day, you might think that this is going to work now, and I can say, okay, hide. The problem with this is these assigns and this condition are all happening at the same time, meaning that this value for start day hasn't been updated by the time this condition is looked at. I need to ensure that this condition is executed after I have updated this variable start day. And you might think, okay, well, let's just put a start delay on the condition, right? Well, you can't do that. So I need to do one more thing here. We'll leave this condition here for it is, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have another subroutine. This is inside this component. And what I'm going to do is I make a receive from current component. Again, this is private inside the component. And the message I'm going to call it is process day. Let's copy that. From self. And let's send. So underneath here, underneath this num days a month, I'm going to send to current component, process day. So what this will do is it will update these variables and send this message. The reason why this is now going to work is while this, and this will all happen at the same time, this receive will happen a split second after it is sent. You can think of this as like a frame, an execution tick, whatever word you want to use for it. You can be confident that this will happen after this, meaning that the values for these two variables will be correctly updated before we receive this. And now let's take this condition, and I'm just going to drag it here. And I'm going to say, okay, well, if my own index is less than the start day, so let's go back here. And so if my month starts on the Wednesday, so if the start day is 3, if my index is 0, 1, or 2, I'm going to set myself to hidden. So we're going to say index less than start day. And I'm going to use an opacity response. Opacity on the very top level. Choose this one right here. Set the opacity to 0, and I don't want this animated. I'm going to set it to 0. Opacity self to 0. I always use self to refer to the layer that is the top level of the component, because this is a long layer name, right? Date picker / dependency / calendar day. I always use the word self to refer to that top level whenever I am referring to a layer in the component. So I'm going to set the opacity of myself to 0. Now let's have another one. So let's duplicate this. If index is equal to or greater than, and it needs to be equal to or greater than, not greater than, because if my start day is 3, if I were to say greater than, well, 4 is greater than the start day, but I also want to include the start day in there. So 3 is not greater than, 3 is not less than, 3 is equal to. So I need to say equal to or greater than. So if the index is equal to or greater than the start day, but I also only want this to happen if I'm within the range of the month. So we take a look at this April, for example. My start day is on 1. And then I want only this to be visible if it's from between 1 and 30. So if I take start day and then add number of days, so if there are 30 days in this month, 1 plus 30 is going to give me here, right? That's the first invisible one. So what I want to say is if my own index is greater than or equal to start day, and if it's also less than start day plus number of days, remember, so I have 30 days in here, 1 plus 30 will give me 31. 31 is my first hidden day. So if my own index is greater than or equal to start day and less than start day plus number of days, we're going to become visible. So I'm going to change this to also say if index is less than, not less than or equal to, remember less than, formula, and I'm going to say start day plus num days in month. Then I'm going to change this to 100. So index within month range. And then lastly, I want if it's outside the range. So I'm going to remove this first one because I'm not looking for greater than start day. I'm looking for greater than or equal to start day plus days a month. Remember that if my start day is 1 and there are 30 days in here, 1 plus 30 is going to give me 31. So if I'm 31 or greater, if my own index is 31 or greater, then I'm going to hide. We're going to set this back to 0. This in and of itself should be enough to have the right number of days visible. So let's go back into our component here and let's test this. Let's preview this. Okay, well, that didn't work. Everything is hidden. What that means is either this condition or this condition were evaluated to true, because both of these are setting the opacity to 0. But this was never true. And why is that? Well, it's the same problem. It's the same problem. Remember here we assigned start day and num day, and then we had to delay. We had to make sure that we didn't evaluate or make decisions based on those variables until they were fully up to date. We have the same problem here. We are sending this message. This message is being sent the same time these conditions are being evaluated, meaning that the number of days has not been set yet. So we want to make sure that this doesn't get sent until after days per month has been updated. So what we can do here, we can add a delay. So let's add a delay. And I can make this 0.01, the smallest amount of a delay that you can add, which will feel instant, but it's enough for that variable, days per month, to be updated. And right here, I'm going to say delay send to ensure days per month is updated. Okay, now let's preview this. Okay, there we go. February 2100 apparently starts on a Monday and finishes on a Sunday. Number of days is 28. Let's use February 2024. I know that's supposed to start on a Thursday, and I know it's supposed to be 29 days. So let's use month is still 2, year is going to be 2024. Preview this. There we go. Starts on the Thursday, and notice how this lines up now. Number of days are 29. And let's do March of 2024. It should start on the Friday. That's the next day after the February. So it should start here, and it should go 31 days. So let's use that. Let's use month. And our year will still be 2024. Let's preview that. And there we go. We've got March of 2024 starting on the Friday, and it goes 31 all the way to the Sunday of this bottom row. So there we go. That's part of our month generation working. We have our calendar days hiding and showing as we need to. We're obviously missing, though, the label number. These should now be numbered to match the day they represent. Let's go back into our calendar day component. And under this one right here, the index is within the range. This is the only time I need to update the label. Here and here, in both cases, we are hiding the component. So I don't need to update the label here. I only need to update it here. So let's use a text response. Text, I'm going to choose the label layer, and I'm going to use a formula. And now remember, I want to make this an offset, a simple calculation. I can use my own index. Let's say my start day of the month is Tuesday. So Tuesday is day 2. My first day of the month is index 2, and I want it to display 1. My second day of the month is index 3, and I want it to display 2. My third day of the month is index 4, and I want it to display 3. Notice how there is a relationship. There's a linear relationship between the index number and the number you want to display. This is a simple offset. So we can do a simple calculation. Let's start with our first day of the month. We want it to display 1. Its index is 2, and the start of the month is 2. If I take the index minus the start day, or 2 minus 2, that's going to give me 0. I want to display 1, but we'll get to that in a second. My second day is index 3. My start day is still 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. My third day is index 4. My start day is still 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. Notice how these are all off by 1. So I just need to add 1 to the difference between index and start day. And this will work for every day in the month. So we're always going to say 1 plus index minus start day. Let's see. Let's go back into our date picker component here and preview this. And there we go. Look at that. I've got my March 2024, and I've got 1 to 31. Okay, that seems pretty cool. Let's now take a look and let's change this to be February of 2024. Still have my year here, 2024, so let's preview this. And I've got 1/2/29. There we go. All right, so this is now working. I want to do one more thing. And that is, if my day is on the Sunday or the Saturday, then I want to change the styling of it. I want it to be that muted gray. So let's go back to our design. And if we take a look here and let's click on this guy, the design is the same color. So it's 1F, 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 but instead of 100%, this is going to be 30%. So let's click on that and we can see that that's the same color but at 30% opacity. So I want to change the fill color of the label's text color to 30% if it's on a Sunday or a Saturday. Let's go back into our calendar day component. For now, I'm going to handle it in the start trigger. We're going to change this a little bit later because we're also going to have to account for whether or not this is a selected day. So this is going to change, but for now, we're going to put it in the start trigger. And I need to make a decision. If I am first day of the week or the last day of the week, there's a number of different ways I could figure that out. I could use the modulus operator again, and I'm going to say if I divide by 7 and it's 0, or divide by 7 and I have remainder 6, that can work. But that seems a little bit complicated to me. Remember how I've got all of these and they're all in a fixed location. This one, whether it's visible or not, is always at x0 within this days group. This one is always at, let's take a look at that. So day 0, this is always at x0, and if we take a look at day 6, this is always at x264. I can just look at the x coordinate of the component itself to determine if I'm on a Saturday or a Sunday. So let's do that. Condition. If date pickers, and make sure you want to pick the top level here. If it equals 0, I want a color response of the label. I'm going to change the text color to remember to be 1F, so I need the pound, 1F, 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 and then at 30%. And once again, I don't want this animated, so I'm going to set that to 0. And similarly, what was the X for day 6? It's 264. All of these are going to be 264. All of these are going to be 0. So if it's X0 or 264, I'm going to change it to the light gray. So similarly, I'm going to say if it equals 264. Okay, let's now take a look at this. And if we look at this, there we go. Now we should see, we see all of our weekend days in that light gray. And if I, well, I mean, obviously I can't go left and right at the moment, but if I change my month to be something else, let's say, let's use January 2024, preview this. There we go. And let's use, I don't know, let's use March 1976. So 3-year 1976. And there we go. It's going to work because we're using the position of that component to determine whether or not it is a weekend day. This was another benefit we have to laying out all of our components for every possible day in the month that we could use and just hiding the ones that we don't need. They don't move around. So any of the ones here, visible or not, are always going to be on a Sunday. And all of the ones here, visible or not, are always going to be on a Saturday.